Hi, Tom. Good morning to you.
It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me along, Nick. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Thank you so much for saying yes to be interviewed today. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless. Read that again. The juxtaposition of your very soul. Meditation. When I read your profile, it is something that I have sworn by after my own trauma journey, spiritual awakening, let's just put it, in the last couple of years. So I'm actually very, very excited to have you on today. And before we start, I'd like to read a bit of an introduction for our listeners today, and then we can get right into our conversation. So, hello everyone. We have Tom Cronin here with us. Tom spent 26 years in finance markets as one of Australia's leading bond and swap brokers. He discovered meditation in the early stages of his career, when the anxiety and chaos he was experiencing had hit a crisis point, and it completely transformed his world, both personally and professionally. Founder of the Stillness Project, a global movement to inspire 1 billion people to sit in stillness daily, Tom is passionate about reducing stress and chaos in people's lives. His ongoing work in transformational leadership coaching and corporate training has seen him working with some of the top companies in the world like Amazon, Qantas, UBS, and Coca-Cola. He has spoken on stage at conferences and events like Ad New Summit, A-Fest, Wanderlust, and Mind Heart Connect. Tom also has 6 books published, a meditation app, and produced the hit film The Portal. Welcome, Tom. Wow. So many achievements. I'm excited to be talking to you today. So, Tom, can you share with us first, what was it like growing up as Tom Cronin?
Well, as a child, I had a really wonderful childhood. I grew up on a little farm about an hour and a half out of Sydney, and I've had a wonderful mother and father and 4 siblings, and it was a very wholesome life. We grew up Catholics, went to church every week, we did grace before dinner, and we, ran through paddocks and fields and lived quite remotely in the countryside. So it was a beautiful childhood. And then I went into finance, and that was a whole other experience. I was going to go to university and do a degree in journalism, but I managed to get a job in finance and thought, I'll go with the money. And that kind of changed things and the trajectory of my path quite a lot, obviously. So I got very caught up in the glamour and the glitz and the hedonism of the finance industry in the 80s and 90s. So that was a big turning point in my life.
Wow. Okay, we went right into it. Can you share with us what was your journey like in that finance career of yours?
It was exciting. I was a young guy, and they threw a lot of money at me, and it was a lot of fun, and it was fast, and there was lots of wonderful events and dinners and nightclubs and bars, and we had sort of almost an unlimited expense account to take clients out. And so that was all very enamoring and very magnetizing for my attention. And so I got pulled into that very quickly. And it was really interesting because it kind of really, I guess it deviated me off my path. And this is the thing with the universe, is that when we deviate off the path, it throws a lot of things at you to try and get you back on your path. And what I started to get was a lot of anxiety and panic attacks, a lot of depression, a lot of self-loathing, a lot of guilt, a lot of shame because of the way I was living my life. But that was leading to more depression and anxiety and panic attacks, which led me to more addictions. And it just was like a vicious cycle.
This cycle.
Yeah, and I just couldn't get out of it. I didn't know I was in it. You just kind of go along with it. But eventually, after about 10 years of that lifestyle, I had a kind of almost full-blown nervous breakdown, which was this culmination of years of panic attacks and depression, insomnia, chronic insomnia, agoraphobia. And then, I couldn't go to work. I had to take mental health leave. And I was seeing psychiatrists, put on suicide watch, put on medication, seeing psychologists and doctors. So it was a pretty intense time. It was a very dark time. I was very, very unhappy, very depressed. And that's when, interestingly, I found meditation. And that was, again, another pivot in my life. We get these pivots that move us on or off our path. And this one moved me back onto my path. And meditation was a really powerful tool that a lot of the addictions, the anxiety, the depression, the insomnia just melted away very quickly. It was quite phenomenal how quickly it changed my life. And I went back into finance and continued on for 16 more years this time, but without the drugs and the drinking. So it was a really
Wow.
big shift that I made. And then eventually left finance to go and start teaching and coaching and speaking and writing books and making films and all sorts of things to bring this message to the world. What I realized when I learned to meditate was that this very simple but ancient technique was so effective and so efficient at removing all those stress responses in my body that I just wanted the world to be able to have access to it. So I became quite passionate about bringing this technique to the world in a big way.
I love when you said the path that you wanted to pursue earlier was journalism or finance. And because at the time, always when we were conditioned since we were kids, at least for me as well, my dad has always said, okay, go after something stable and whatnot. But then journalism, if you think about it, your journalism is about sending message out in the world, and then right now you're doing that again. You're like, it's like a full circle, right? And it's amazing how the universe has its own way of bringing you back to actually what you were supposed to do. But again, the noise says, okay, because this is glamorous, prestigious, and therefore money that comes with it and status, right? And that's how you should live. And then I'm resonating. It's because during my 20s to 30s as well, it's about hustle, 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 get somewhere, get to a certain level, and then have a goal. And then after 30, it's like, okay, what now? What now? Right. And then at the time, I never looked life past 30. It's like I had the idea of everything is settled. I'm married, settled down, a great job, or maybe a stay at home mom. But it all came crumbling down before 30. So I had to start from scratch. And I think meditation is, I think there's a lot of ways to meditate. And we'll get into it because this is a conversation that I love talking. I cannot get enough. So what did you make that how did you make that transition from being a broker to a meditation teacher? Like you mentioned finance, had all the experience for 10 years, and then had that breakdown, and then you rejoin the finance industry again, and then that's the shift, and then now full-time coaching. How did you make that transition?
Because
Like,
I had
what was
such a
that
big
pull factor or push factor rather?
I had such a big shift from the meditation. It really changed my life in a big way. And what started to happen was a lot of people were coming to me because they could see that I'd changed. And they were coming to me with their problems and looking for guidance and advice and support. Or I knew a lot of people that were having difficult times in life. So I just kept referring a lot of these people to other meditation teachers that I was friends with that had been studying alongside me. And over time, I just kept referring so many people to these teachers that I thought, well, I may as well just do the teacher
Why
training
not
myself.
me?
So I decided to do the teacher training while I was a broker, and I loved it so much that when I completed my training, I decided that I would want to become a teacher, and I started teaching part-time. So I'd finish work on a trading room floor and then go to a meditation studio that I was subleasing and start teaching people how to meditate. So it was very two extreme worlds. But I really like that,
Yeah, I was
those
about to
two
say that's a
parallel universes.
paradox. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so over
Juxtaposition.
time, I just, having got a taste for teaching, I realized that this is something that I was kind of really here to do in some way, shape, or form, in a professional way, in a full-time way. Now, I didn't really have a business model for that. It was, going from being a broker in finance with 2 children, a wife, and a big mortgage, and into becoming a meditation teacher isn't the biggest financial career move. But I worked with some coaches and took time to build out a business model. It took a while, and it was a really difficult time, admittedly, for a while. But a lot of what I do these days is mentor people on how to build out their business models as meditation teachers and healers and yoga teachers and coaches. But at the time, it was quite challenging. And I think one of those things for anyone listening that's thinking about making that transition is two things. One is really follow that passion. There's a calling inside you to express yourself in a way that when you do that, it's going to be the most fulfilling thing that will override the lack of financial, windfalls that you might have had in that career path. But also looking at how do you build a sustainable business model out of that. That's a really critical one, because traditionally in the past, what we had was spiritual meditation, yoga people living very renunciant and away from the world of money and families and kids and things like that and careers. Whereas now we're seeing that integrate into the world over the last, 50 to 100 years. And we're seeing this spirituality move out of the ashrams and monasteries and the sadhus and the swamis into households of the world. So people who have families that need to feed them and house them, we need to make this a viable business possibility. So looking at your business models can be really critical.
I love that. It's because you have to choose. The idea is that it's one or the other. Money, okay, go ahead, go work, go study, go hustle, and then meditation. Just be by yourself, sit in stillness, and then and hope for some I don't know, some handouts from people. Like that was the idea I had, especially for me. And right now I am also transitioning to coaching, and meditation has been an integral part of setting my mindset, setting my intention, right? To have that courage to move. And it's so that's why I want to talk about that. Tom, can you share with us, what does mindfulness or meditation do to a person? Like, why is it so important?
There's two main reasons why it's so important. The first reason is on a sort of very practical level. It's going to help you sleep better. It's going to help your blood pressure. It's going to help your cholesterol. It's going to help the functionality of your brain as we get into more flow state orientation. It's going to reduce things like anxiety, depression. It's going to reduce insomnia. It's going to, on a practical level, make your life better on so many different levels. It's going to give you greater brain optimization, which is one of the key things for being successful in the world. It's going to give you greater adaptive capacity. So all these things are going to help you thrive and succeed in the world in a better way. Relationships, health, vitality, career, all those things. The second reason why we want to meditate, particularly if we're doing the deeper transcending styles of meditation. Now, a lot of people will just put meditation into one basket, but there are so many different styles. You can have gratitude and visualizations and chakra healings and all sorts of things, which are all fine and useful. But when we do the deeper transcending meditations, which is the one that I teach and practice, to transcend means to go beyond the three layers of thought, emotion, and physicality. So most people think they're their thoughts, their feelings, and their physical body, but that's a vehicle that we currently have, like a spacesuit, to occupy whilst we're in this particular domain called planet Earth. And we need those three faculties to exist while we move around and eat ice cream and, have families and puppy dogs. But there's another layer that we need to integrate into our existence, and this is what we call pure consciousness or being. It's a state of awareness that doesn't have thoughts. It's a state of awareness that is free of the emotional fluctuations. And it's actually not contained by the boundaries of the physical form that we occupy. So a lot of my students, when they go into transcendence, they're like, where did I just go? That was like so expansive. And they couldn't locate the individualized place that they were because they were actually part of an entire field.
Yeah, like exactly.
And so having
It's like
that
you're everywhere
access,
and anywhere at the same time.
everywhere and anywhere at the same time, everything and nothing at the same time. And so being in being is such an important part of our existence as a human. And it's why so many humans are suffering, because they're not experiencing the fullness of what it is to be human, which is to have being incorporated in the human experience, because we are human beings. Being. There's a noun and a verb there. And so
Yes.
we want to really make sure that we have a practice that we integrate and stabilize being into our daily experience, because it's an unshakable, unmovable part of us that when we operate from that place, we're operating from fulfillment, we're operating from bliss, we're operating from love, and we're operating from simple awareness itself. And my big mission and vision in life is to bring being to as many people on the planet as possible, which hopefully will create a lot more freedom and a lot less suffering in the world.
But it's a scary experience to let go.
It's scary
To
for the
just
ego. There's one thing we've got to remember, because it's really important we clarify the use of words. The ego experiences fear. The thing beyond the ego, which is divinity, it doesn't experience fear, because fear implies two things. I'm afraid of something. But in divinity or being, there's actually only one thing. And so one thing can't be afraid of something else if there's only one thing. And so the ego experiences the
wow.
fear because the ego is
Yes.
afraid of losing its experience and its identity. But there's nothing more profound and more blissful than being. And that's what the ego is afraid of, because it's going to start to lose its relevance when being supersedes it.
It's all encompassing. Woo! Tom, that was a I love that. Yes. Okay. Why did you create the Stillness Project, and what was the vision and mission for it?
So if we think of what stillness is the absence of motion. And so if we take motion out, which is mental motion and energetic motion or emotion, physical motion, because a lot of people say to me, oh, I meditate when I swim, but you're in motion.
Yeah.
I meditate when I'm walking. Now, there's definitely some degrees of some calming down that can happen when we're doing these types of things, but there's still activity. So what really is the most powerful thing is when we go into true stillness, which is when we have mental, emotional, and physiological stillness. And the way to get to stillness is to get to being, because when we're in being, there's nothing that can supersede
To
the
be.
quality and the state of that. Yeah, we're simply being. It's all right.
There's nothing to do.
That's right.
Just be.
And, even Jesus talked about stillness quite often. So it's something that's been around for thousands of years, this idea of sitting in stillness. And what really changed my life dramatically was not trying to extract to commoditize fulfillment in life by buying something, acquiring something, experiencing something, but to actually find fulfillment in stillness. And what arose from that place was so profound that I wanted the world to start to experience it. So the Stillness Project, the tagline for the Stillness Project was to inspire 1 billion people to meditate daily. And I knew that if I looked at the world, I could see so many of the world's problems weren't necessary. And if we can get more people integrating stillness into their life through meditation on a daily basis, then I think a lot of the world's problems will start to melt away.
I am so moved. Because that's exactly what I advocate for as well. Not meditation, but it's one of the modalities in the coaching space that I'm entering into. So, Tom, you're doing fantastic work. Thank you.
Thank you.
How did the Portal film and book project come about, and what inspired it?
So one thing, having a mission and a vision, it's hard to say those two together. Having a mission and a vision to inspire 1 billion people to meditate daily, you need a lot of awareness. And so one of the tools that I thought could be very powerful for bringing global awareness to the power of meditation was to showcase it. And this was on the back of The Secret, which brought a very esoteric subject of the law of attraction. And phenomenally, they made it a very integrated phenomenon in the households of the world in, I think it was 2010, 2011. So being very inspired by that, maybe it was a bit before that, but I was very inspired by the power of that film to take a very esoteric subject, the law of attraction, think and something will come to you, feel, and you'll attract things to your life, and make it a household phenomenon. Well, I thought, I could do that with meditation. And this was before apps and everyone else was meditating. So we decided to make a movie and have a book extracted out of the film, that it was originally called The Stillness Effect. And I kind of wish I'd stuck to that name, but it did change along the way to the portal. But the idea of that was to really get that into the masses and let people watch the power of meditation through real life stories. So we took 6 stories that have all gone through crisis, which was kind of inspired by my story because I found meditation because of crisis. And the idea of the film, which is the essence of my journey, is that crisis isn't there to punish us. It's not there because we're bad people. It's there to help us realign when we are missing the point,
Redirect.
when we're missing the cues.
Mhm.
And it's a rupturous process. Yeah, it's a redirection. Absolutely. It's a repivoting back. And so we showcase 6 stories that all had crisis, then move them towards realizing the tool of meditation. It's really beautiful.
Mm. How do I say this? I don't have anything to add because everything that you said is what I truly want to say. And me having this podcast is for my guests to actually speak their message, use my platform to spread their message as wide and as far wide they can. So yes. Now, next question. You mentioned in the Portal film and the book An Enlightened Planet. What does that actually look like?
Such a good question. We don't actually know because we've never seen it. We've lived in what we call Kali Yuga, the age of ignorance, for a long time, an age of suffering, an age of conflict, an age of disease, an age of greed, an age of lust and narcissism and anger and shame and guilt and fear and isolation and loneliness. So we don't know what that looks like, but what we're inviting the world to do is to start contemplating what that might look like. So everyone's going to have their own version of what an enlightened planet might look like. So there's no blueprint that we can give to people and say, this is what it's going to look like. But what we can do is if we start to contemplate that and we invite audiences and let's just say we're inviting all of you listening today to just start to contemplate in your mind, what might you look like as an enlightened person? And what might the planet look like if everyone on the planet was like you as an enlightened person? So what does an enlightened planet look like? It's when everyone is in an awakened state of consciousness, embodying love, wisdom, and harmony. And I think what it will look like is that we will have different economic models. Instead of extraction and commoditization, they'll be based on rewarding for contribution. We'll have different education systems. We'll have different political systems. We'll have different business models. We'll have different sporting systems. We'll have different banking systems, pharmaceutical, medical systems. What does it look like when people learn how to be much more sovereign in their health rather than be conditioned to be unhealthy? And what does it look like for a society that's much more fulfilled inside themselves and not trying to get fulfillment by going to a shopping mall and buying lots of things? It will change the economic model when we have more people that are fulfilled. So we have to really think of a very holistic approach to how do we navigate a more conscious, more enlightened, and more fulfilled and more healthy society, because it's going to cause major ramifications to the economic model, which is currently built on the society being unhealthy and unhappy.
What are the challenges that you see right now with the world of capitalism?
The capitalism is not the problem. The problem is lack of consciousness and lack of fulfillment. And when we have people that are more inherently fulfilled by tapping into their own blissful nature, and when we have people that are more awake and more aware rather than easily indoctrinated and conditioned and coded, then we'll make better choices, better decisions. So look, I've been meditating for a long time, and I'm not perfect. I still make wrong decisions. I still, I'm still learning and growing. So it's actually not a definitive thing. I thought it would be definitive when I was very naive and starting on this spiritual path. It's like, when does this journey stop? It's like, so when do I get off?
Exactly.
It's gonna have a holiday.
Exactly. I thought the same thing. Like, oh, okay. At one point, I said I'm enlightened, but then that's when you say it that way, that means the ego is still talking, because you're trying to achieve a state, and an ego always attaches itself with an identity, right? But again, consciousness is about you're nothing, but you're everything at the same time. So that's the juxtaposition that when you understand that, and also understand, because you're still in the 3D plane, you're not in the 5D. You have your soul is in 5D, yes, but then you're still on 3D, so you still walk around, you still have bills to pay. I guess the key is also balance. And also be accepting of the fact that you're still human. You're here to experience the human experience.
Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, we don't actually find enlightenment. We reveal enlightenment, because enlightenment is what's already inherent. It's already there. It's like the blue sky behind the clouds. It's not like we have to make the sky blue. The sky is already blue. We just have to move the clouds. Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
And it's okay
like
that there's
stripping
clouds,
ourselves
because
of
it's like
the
it's okay that there's ego. We came here to experience the dichotomy, the
precisely.
paradox of being
Yeah.
fulfillment and bliss and divinity and God and source, simultaneously with being
Yeah.
a seemingly separated, segregated human experience as well.
Mhm. Beautifully explained. Wow, Tom. Thank you for that. All right. Next question. I think I did ask this one just now, but let's go into it. What are some of the biggest challenges the planet faces right now?
Like I said before, lack of consciousness, and lack of connection to source and self with a capital S, their higher self being. And as well as that, on a 3D dimensional level, we face a number of challenges which are going to be economic. We face environmental challenges. We face major racial and religious conflict rather than acceptance. And we live in a very separated, segregated world where what you're doing and your belief system it challenges mine. And so therefore, if I can wipe your belief system out somehow, then I might feel more fulfilled or happier, which is a very naive way of looking at the world. And so we have again, all this comes back to, we can get more people transcending those seemingly perceived differences, and realize at a subtle level that there's a full interconnectedness. It's like we're part of a web that's interwoven, not just with humans, but also with plants and animals as well. And I think when we can transcend these perceived limitations and boundaries and separations and experience a more interconnectedness, then that will dissolve a lot of these problems that we seem to be facing right now.
Mm. Where do you see our world, our planet going?
We cover this in the film and the book a lot, and we see one of two options, and neither of them are very clear as to which one will prevail at this stage. We see, not to be too doomsday-ish, but the doomsday clock is the closest it's ever been to midnight, for a very good reason, because we are the closest to annihilation of a species. If we continue on this trajectory, there's a high probability that we will not be able to survive the next, I'm not going to put a timeline on it, because that will create all sorts of messages from people, but some not too distant foreseeable future. But we also see the potential for an enlightened planet, for a huge paradigm shift with humanity, which will see us really start to reintegrate more successfully back into the planet, with the fungi, with the bees, with the birds, with the ocean, with the whales, with the sky, with the air, and also with other humans as well. So we need to reintegrate back into the environment on a more equal footing, and reintegrate into the collective species of the humans on a more collaborative, cohesive, coherent level as well. So those two things, if we can get there, then I think we could see longevity with the human species. But at this point, where we see ourselves seemingly as some superior race that we can extract whatever we want out of this planet and annihilate any other dogma or religion or belief system that seems to be getting in our way, then I think we're on a fast track to termination.
Now, when you were explaining, I just had a thought in my head. It's like the universe automatically, I don't know, it feels like the universe automatically equalizes it. Like before, it's this way, but then we have the movement, like yourself, like what you're doing, and then one part of the world is awakening that, okay, we need there's something that needs to be done, and then again, perhaps, okay, when we go to that, everybody is like on that how do I say this? It's a constant cycle in a way that, okay, you have the injustice, and then people awakening, and then there's something somewhere that's gonna come and say, okay, why do we extract again? And then again, it's gonna tip the balance again, and it's somehow, it's like, that's how the world is around for what, 4.5 billion years.
Yeah, I wonder if it's, I don't know this, but I wonder if it's a quality of the universe that parts of the universe are expanding while parts of the universe are contracting. It's almost like the
Right?
torus
It's
field
like,
that's going out and in and out
yeah,
and in. So I
yes.
wonder if that's just part of what the torus or the universal
Mm,
field is doing, is some parts is evolving and some parts is devolving at the same time simultaneously. I'm not
yeah,
sure.
it's
It
dying
seems to be that
and
way, like you're saying, or maybe there's some balance that always works out between light and dark. If we want more lightness, we're going to have more darkness. And
precisely. And then when there, you can't have light without darkness and vice versa. I love
they
it.
do say that, but
It's amazing.
I wonder if that is the case. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure that that's a definitive statement, because I know
Okay.
it is a very
Can you
often,
explain why I love this?
it's an often used term, but if we think of what darkness is only an absence of light. So light doesn't exist
Mm,
on its own. Light is something that emanates from something. Light has a source, and
mm-hmm.
darkness is doesn't have a source. Darkness is just what is. So if you think of a dark room,
Yeah,
nothing makes the room dark, but
the-
something makes the
it
room
is.
light. True?
Mm,
Okay, so darkness
mm,
doesn't have a quality.
mm,
There's no quality of darkness. It's not like you can go and get darkness, but you can get light. So we don't necessarily need to have lightness and dark in balance. I think that's
mm,
kind of a different thing that I know we use that term a lot, and I've used it no doubt before, but I'm only having this thought because you mentioned it. But I think
mm-hmm.
we can have light without darkness.
Mm. Wow, I love that. That's a that's a new way of looking at it. Okay. A thing for our listeners to ponder today. What is the one thing people can do today to make a difference in their life?
That's an easy one for me. We have 24 hours in every day, and every hour has 3 portions of 20 minutes, which means that there are 72 20-minute segments in every day. And everything we allocate in those 72 20-minute segments of time, we allocate in the 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 searching for fulfillment. That's whether we go to the gym, whether we eat ice cream, whether we watch Netflix, listen to Spotify, whether we, go and clean our bathroom floor, whether we have a shower, whether we go to the toilet. All of those things are parts of a movement of activity in the quest to find greater fulfillment. We clean the bathroom floor, even though the activity itself doesn't seem fulfilling, but we feel more fulfilled once we've cleaned the bathroom floor. So we can trace the motivation behind every fulfillment to be some quest to find fulfillment. Yet what we have lying within us is actually the direct source of fulfillment, which is the transcendent state of being. There's nothing more fulfilling than the state of being, because it doesn't have any craving. It can't find anything more than what it is already to be fulfilled. And so if we can just allocate at least one, if not, I'd recommend 2 20-minute segments every day to meditate and to transcend the thinking mind, the egoic identity, then what I think we'll do is we'll find greater levels of fulfillment in life itself.
Beautiful. When you said that, I was thinking already to change my segment to 40 minutes, 20 minutes, 20-minute session.
Yeah, that's what I
And
do. One in
that's
the
a
morning,
good
one in the
one. That's a
afternoon.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20 minutes. And it's bite sized. People can
Mm.
take it when they're commuting or doing. Well, Tom, thank you so much. Wow, I'm learning every day from my guests.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me along. Thanks for the great questions. Thanks for listening, everyone. It's wonderful to share
Thank you.
space with you all.
Yeah. Okay, Tom, a few more questions before I let you go. What is next for you?
I'm going to take my retreats on quite a big level. So at the moment, I'm running 2 retreats a year, one in Australia, one in Bali. Last year we had Greece, we've run them in Maui, but I want to really take one of those retreat models into the Middle East, into Dubai, and one into America, and potentially also maybe Europe as well. So definitely making more of my retreats available around the world going forward. Some people are suggesting maybe another book might be coming. I'm not sure yet, but we'll see, and I'll fill into that. But
The
teaching a lot more people
downloads.
to, yeah, the downloads. Teaching a lot more people to meditate, doing a lot more corporate work, working with corporations, teaching them how to get into flow state, brain optimization, and increase productivity and focus. So that's another big thing that I'm looking at in 2025, and also education departments really looking at the school system. I think the school
I love
system's
that.
really just very depleted and deteriorated at the moment because we're trying to commoditize children's brains, which is just a tragedy, rather than trying to inspire and support children to grow in a healthy, happy way. And there's a major issue there. Having 2 children myself, I really want to see if I can bring some shift to the education departments of the world. And then finally, having parents going through aged care, I think I'd really like at some point to work on much greater, healthier and compassionate aged care that will not just create greater longevity for those people, but also healthier, happier longevity whilst they're living longer lives as well. So there's a fair bit there. I need multiples of me, which is why I'm doing a lot of training programs to train people up to start doing a lot of what I'm doing.
No ways. Okay, I'd like to know more about that. And share it around in case my friends would love to be a part of that. Yeah, I think you're doing great
it's a coaching
work.
program called Zen Academy. And what it is, it's an academy or training center for people of consciousness that want to become leaders in the world. So it's a beautiful container. We've got some amazing healers, coaches, teachers, yoga teachers, meditation teachers in that container looking to, grow their impact in the world. So it's a really beautiful container.
Yes, I would like to connect with you offline.
Okay, we'll chat for sure.
Thank you for that. And also, I'm curious. This is me asking, thinking out loud. So the retreats that you're doing, right? What were your the factors that made you think about or decide which one to go to?
I do a lot of research on the locations. My retreats are quite an intense process. They're not a walk in the park. They are something that will completely change someone's life in a positive way. Physical health, we see incredible healings happen through our retreats. A lot of clearing and getting clear about their life purpose and dharma. So for that reason, we wanted to make sure that the venues and the locations we hold them are going to be congruent for that level of transformation. So just looking for very soft healing locations. So if I'm going to go to America, I need to go to America in a place that is congruent with stillness. So New York might not be suitable for the type of retreat that I'm doing. There's too much activity there because the field is filled with lots of noise, lots of thoughts, lots of dreams, lots of Wi-Fi. So there's too much static in that vicinity for a lot of meditation. So going to places where we have a lot of quietness in the field, the subtle field, is going to be really important.
I love that.
So probably not in Kuala Lumpur
because
either.
I'm trained. No, not in Kuala. I would not. No, do not do in Kuala Lumpur. Because I am also thinking about my wellness. So it's because I'm speaking to a lot of coaches like yourself, and they've been doing a lot of retreats, and I'm like, wow, I need to start looking. So people are doing it in Costa Rica. Like I've got 2 invitations to go to Costa Rica this month, this year. So I'm like, oh, okay, there must be something happening in Costa Rica.
There's definitely some vortexes of consciousness popping up on the planet, which is really beautiful. So obviously we have Bali, we have Costa Rica, we have Tulum in Mexico, we've got Maui, and some really beautiful spiritual vortexes happening in Hawaii. We're seeing some beautiful vortexes happening in Greece. Where else have I heard of them? I believe that Siberia has something. I'm not sure what, but I think there's something in Siberia.
I'm not good with cold.
No, I'm not either. But I think something's emerging out of that location.
Wow. Yeah, I would like to connect with you after the interview.
For sure.
Tom, okay, a question on self-worth, because my podcast talks a lot about self-worth. So the question for you: imposter syndrome is a common challenge that affects people in various fields. How can one overcome imposter syndrome and recognize their true value and capabilities?
It's one that we deal with a lot in my Zen Academy, because a lot of the coaches and the healers and the teachers that I work with, pretty much most of them, myself included at times, grapple with imposter syndrome or self-worth and value. So, because the thing is, wherever we start, it's not where we end. And every stage that we evolve to, we get to a bigger level, but each level has a new level of oh, am I worthy of this level? And so we can go through many layers of
Yeah.
unworthiness or imposter syndrome. If I'm in front of 500 people on the stage, then that's not a problem. But if I'm in front of 10,000, then that might be a problem for my levels of self-worth and validity or validation. So we always get to new levels of, can I overcome this challenge? But the way I help my clients deal with that is by a very simple process. We shift our gaze, our awareness, our attention from us to the need of the time. And if I don't think about me, which is, am I good enough for this? Am I worthy of this? And I think about who here needs my
Yes.
help. And when we put it
Exactly. Who am
on
I serving?
who am I serving?
Right?
Yeah. And what is their problem? And if we break it down to what is their problem, well, I can fix that. I can help them with that. I can help them overcome that obstacle, that challenge. And whether it's one person in a crowd of 10,000 or one person in a crowd of 10, the point is I'm putting my attention on that person and their challenge and their obstacles and their difficulties and helping them to overcome that problem. And now, because we're all not all, but if we're in that space, we're usually qualified to be able to deal with that problem. It's just the magnitude of how many people have got that problem, whether we feel worthy or
Yeah.
not. So by shifting our attention to the people or the problem that's outside of us and not inside of us, then we overcome that quite easily.
Those who give sleeps better than those who take. Just think of it that way.
Yeah.
When you're serving, that's the ultimate act of being fulfilled.
Yeah, for sure.
What is your heart's greatest wish, Tom?
There's two, I guess. One is macro, which was to see the world with less conflict, less suffering, less pain, less very avoidable poor health. Just so many of these problems melting away and us having a greater level of harmony, acceptance, tolerance, integration, appreciation of nature and the beautiful planet that we're on. And I think also for me, just to continue to evolve, continue to be a better person, to serve humanity in a way that will make my heart sing, and to do things that to be playful, to be joyful, to be healthy, live a simple life.
Beautiful. You have a mantra that you live by?
Yogasta Kuru Kamani, which means established in being, perform action. So being can be interpreted in many ways, but to be established in the heart, to be established in love, to be established in fulfillment, then go into action from that. To be established in joy, then action from fulfillment, from joy, from love is different than action for joy, for love, for fulfillment.
Powerful. Is there anything that keeps you up at night, or do you sleep well?
There's always challenges. My father passed just recently. My mother's been unwell.
So sorry.
Thank you. There's always things in life. It never stops throwing some conundrum, some challenge, some malady, some obstacle, some difficulty. So yeah, as a human, I still grapple with these things. Financial, obviously, is always something when you're running a business on your own. You're always aware of those things. So there's 3D issues that you're always having to navigate. The biggest thing is just having trust. It's always the hard one. But just for me, particularly in my analytical mind, that likes to future
Finance
forecast.
background.
Yeah, totally. So trusting is a big one for the ego. It's very hard for the ego to trust the universe. But that's one thing that I've been embracing a lot more, of just trust that it'll be okay.
Thank you. If you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening and the world as your legacy, what would it be?
If I could create a what, sorry?
A quote.
A quote. I think it's a cohort. A quote for the world.
A quote. Yes.
I mean, like the one I said, Yogasta Kuru Kamani, established in being, perform action. But I think the main one is to just know that whatever is unfolding in life is unfolding for us. And that when we have the ability to see that and adapt and flow with that, then life will be more harmonious, more accepting, more embracing, and we'll be able to overcome many of those obstacles a lot more smoothly. So just always remember, the universe isn't working against you. It might be difficult, And it might give you challenges, but they will be challenges you'll be able to look back and go, I now see why that happened. And
It's to prepare me for the next level.
That's right. Yeah, preparing you for the next level. It's not easy qualifying to be a Navy SEAL or US Marine, but you have to go through that training to get to that particular level and operate at that particular quality.
Ooh, thank you so much, Tom. Okay, how can people reach out to you?
Instagram's a great place. Just come to Tom Cronin, one word. I love to hear from people there. Go to my website, tomcroninagain.com. They can find my retreats and my coaching programs and my courses and things there. So look, love to hear from people, love to respond to my messages. So yeah, reach out anytime.
Well, and there you have it, guys. You heard it from the person himself, Tom Cronin. Before we close off, Tom, I'd like to personally thank you for the work that you're doing for the world and for advancing every step of the way despite the challenges, creating trails for those that will come after you. This has been that one podcast with that controversial name, You're Worthless. Read that again. The juxtaposition of your very soul. If you find yourself thinking that you're worthless, you're not alone. But more importantly, ask yourself a level deeper. If I'm worthless, then why the heck am I here? It is because your soul have chosen to be here energetically, all the way from the ethers. And for that reason itself, you are worthy and you're enough. This has been Tom Cronin, my guest of the day, and Nick Niera as your host, signing off.